Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode 5. I always like to say we made it. We got to another one. Thank you everybody for listening. Everybody who's watching online on YouTube. We actually we're breaking records. Junior's episode. We're at I think by the time this airs, I think we'll have about 2,500 views at least.
All right.
So you're killing.
I'm going for double.
Keep doing that. You're beating your coach. Sorry for Leap. He's just hitting 1,000. All right. So that's really cool. Watch. Yeah. So I want to thank everybody again for watching and listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can always just find us at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies, IES at the end. When you watch on YouTube, best thing you can do to help us out is give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for free, and throw us a comment. We'll answer. I typically answer, but I always usually let you guys know if somebody's directed a comment towards you guys. Sure. So I'm Milton Campus, purple belt, Fight Sports Coral Springs. You can find me at Uncle Milty BJJ on Instagram. Stay away from my Facebook. If you want to send us questions, you can hit us up on jiu-jitsudummies.com or send us an email at info@jiu-jitsudummies.com. If we use your question on the show, you get a $50 gift code to chokeresponsibly.com. They're the ones that make our shirts, most of us, right? New one, Friends Parody. So we just added backpacks, stickers, hoodies. We already had coffee mugs. We're going to add some kids shirts for the podcast t-shirts, and Choke Responsibly just added their own rash guards, and they're going to make us a rash guard as well. So we'll have a Jiu-Jitsu Dummies rash guard coming soon.
I'm gonna need one of those.
If you want to become a podcast patron, and we'll get into a little bit more about what that is, but basically if you want to support the show, we're going to read off some of our patrons in a little bit. If you want to support the show for as little as $5 a month, it's just a recurring charge that you'll see on your credit card or your debit account. But we'll shout you out. We'll shout you out, your gym. Tell us what you want to talk about. Just by coincidence, we're going to be talking a little bit about PTSD today. I'm not sure if you've heard of Mission 22. You've heard of them? One of the guys asked us as his shout out to shout out Mission 22. So I thought that would just kind of just worked out perfectly. So again, we'll get into that in a little bit. So again, big thank you to Choke Responsibly. They've given us, at this point, I mean, we've probably given away well over $1,000 worth of shirts, but we're going to keep it going. They're giving us, they're giving you, the listeners and viewers, 10% off with coupon code DummiesPod5. And there's always free shipping in the United States.
What do we got to do to get that coupon code up to 15%? What do we got to do out there for us? You like, subscribe, comments.
The CEO over there is a little bit of an asshole.
Yeah, let's send that guy a message.
So yeah, so he's a little bit of an asshole. We love him, but he's an asshole and he's cheap. So it's 10% and free shipping. But maybe we see what we can do.
Send a comment. See what we can do. Send a comment.
Yes. We also want to thank Fight Back CBD. For their support. They give us 2 bottles every episode.
Nice.
To give away to at least 2 listeners whose questions we've used on the show. So that's really cool. And again, I know that you've got some experience with Fight Back CBD.
Yes, great company.
What was your experience with taking it? Did it work for you? I mean, that's the question. But did it work for you? What did it do? Tell us.
Best night of sleep of my life.
Yeah.
So you take it as sublingual, and when I took it, it's with MCT oil, so like my brain was like woo, but all the pain that I have in my it helped me focus better.
Okay, in a good way.
I'm a dummy, right? Jiu-Jitsu dummy, and I'm a Marine on top of that, so I don't have too much going for me. But
I don't know if you meant like your mind was just going and thinking too much, because that's what I try to get away from. I gotta come down.
No, it just helped me focus.
Okay,
it helped me focus. Right, awesome. Calm.
They have the nighttime. They have like a regular and then the nighttime.
I never tried the nighttime.
Okay, so I didn't try the nighttime either.
The ingredients though, they're good.
Justin, get us some nighttime CBD. What's up?
Yeah. Oh man. But with Fight Back CBD, when I first ordered it, there was something wrong with it. Like the website was messed up or something.
Okay.
And the owner reached out to me. He's like, for all your troubles, I'm gonna send you a free bottle.
Okay.
And then, with that relationship with him, like my boy was looking for sponsors. My boy Alex Moran,
okay.
He trains with me.
Shout out to Alex.
Yeah, shout out to Alex. He's a fucking monster.
Yeah. Where does he train out of?
GFTeam for Lauderdale with me.
Okay. Oh, okay. It's with you. Okay.
Giant Viking.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and he ended up getting sponsored. So Justin has a good mission. He wants to empower people that are struggling like with addiction and stuff. Wants to get them in jiu-jitsu. So that company's very good. So I'm glad to know that.
Nice. And while we're talking about it, Junior, you've been taking your bottle that you got?
I have been trying some, but just because of my schedule, I haven't been able to take it with me.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. You're always traveling. You can't necessarily cross borders with that, huh?
Yeah, I don't want to try that yet.
And you said you didn't take it yourself, but you gave it to somebody?
I gave it to my father-in-law who suffers from chronic pain with his back since a car accident 30 years ago. And he actually used CBD oil before, and he just couldn't get his hands on it. So when I sent him that, he was like, that was like Christmas to him. It's definitely very effective. It lets him get up in the morning without any pain, and lets him get through the day without concentrating on his pain.
Okay.
So it was a godsend.
All right, very cool. So again, shout out to Fight Back CBD. Again, they give us 2 bottles for every episode. We give them away to listeners. They've also set up a code. Now he's not an asshole, like the guy from Choke Responsibly. He has it at 15%. So coupon code JJD will get you 50% off. Let them know that that we sent you. And like you said, they're helping people with substance abuse issues. Really get into jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And again, it's kind of we're kind of like on the border of talking about that today. Just helping people find jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So let's just go around the table real quick. We're gonna let Drew go last. But just everybody introduce themselves, name, rank, serial number, If where you want to start, Junior?
Sure, I'll start. My name is Junior. I am a black belt with Felipe Amarante from Coral Springs. We are Fight Back.
Not Fight Back. I do that too.
Fight Sports affiliate in Coral Springs.
Cool.
I'm Raul Benton. I'm a white belt with Felipe Amarante in Coral Springs. Fight Sports Coral Springs. Wow, completely.
Everybody wants to say Fight Back. I was doing it earlier too.
Let's not forget Sophia.
And Sophia, absolutely. Monster.
Absolutely. I already introduced myself, but again, Milton Campus, Purple Belt, Fight Sports. I had to think for a second. Fight Sports Coral Springs.
I'm Janet, blue belt, also at Fight Sports Coral Springs with Felipe and Sophia Amarante.
Very cool, everybody. Our special guest today, Drew Phoenix.
Yeah.
This man is a retired Marine Corps vet.
Hoorah.
Correct, right?
Hoorah. I'm retired, but we'll go with it.
Retired. I'm sorry. Well, you just say veteran, right?
Yeah, there you go.
This is where I need some guidance. Brown belt under Aj Sousa.
Yep.
GFT, right, in Fort Lauderdale. You are the CEO of... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I said and Kenny. Because Kenny, while we were doing the program, he talked to AJ, and because of him, that's why I end up getting promoted to brown belt. And
Kenny was my first coach. That's how we met. We're going to talk about that a little bit. You are the CEO of Average Family Tribe.
Yep.
I'm going to let you explain that in a little bit, and we're actually going to have you back on episode 6.
For sure.
Where we're going to be talking about kids in jiu-jitsu and bringing jiu-jitsu to underserved communities and children.
Yep.
So we'll talk a little bit about that, but you can go into as much of that as you want today.
Sure.
And you happen to be Director of Operations at SubStars Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Yep, SubStars. Our next event's July 19th.
We got our table.
Sub.stars, everybody go follow.
Who do we talk to get first row? Because they were sold out.
Just, send me a message. We'll see. I might know a little somebody.
Okay, all right. We got to get Bo ringside, so don't forget. We said we got to get him ringside.
Let me talk to...
Yeah. So normally I probably would have thanked our patrons earlier. We're going to kind of read off some of the people that actually again support the show. The last it'll make sense on why I left the last one for last and why I left it for this point. But first of all, we want to shout out James Fisher. He's a brown belt, Valor BJJ in Ohio. Team Sean Hammonds out of Mount Orab, east of Cincinnati. All right, James is actually the guy. When I was posting for like massage gun companies and CBD, he put me on to Fight Back. So huge shout out to James, and he's always kind of trying to introduce me to companies as well for sponsorship. So a big shout out to him. Chuck Redor, I actually asked them for like, hey, send me your nicknames. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and we're going to read it. And he was like, he wrote nicknames. Well, I'm a Filipino who's 5'4" and weighs anywhere from 185 to 200 pounds with no neck. There are too many nicknames to list. So I thought that was funny. Chuck's been listening to us since the very beginning. He's incredibly active on our social media. I love him. He's great. He keeps the conversation going on our group, on the fan page, and on Instagram. So big shout out, and thank you, Chuck. He is a 1-stripe blue belt training at Gracie Kona Jiu-Jitsu in Kailua Kona. I'm sorry if I'm butchering any of this, on the Big Island of Hawaii. So again, Chuck, thank you. Keep it up.
Aloha,
appreciate all the
Aloha,
shout outs,
brother.
and pictures,
Lucky
everything,
mother.
right? Aloha. So the last one, this guy, he's always he's again somebody who's active on our social media, always hitting me up on Twitter, always liking and reposting. This gentleman's name is CJ Carroll, and he wrote, again, I've asked him, like, send me some information about you, and this is what he sent, and again, will probably lead us into the conversation that we really wanted to get to today, which is, okay, so he says, I'm a 4-stripe white belt at Roanoke Jiu-Jitsu Club. We're just a small hole-in-the-wall club out of Virginia. It says, that's right, we Virginians still support the JJD. Do you remember who offended all of Virginia on the last podcast? Was that you? Somebody was telling a story. Or was it Coach? Somebody said something about like Virginia, right? Yes, we offended a few people. I think we offended Jehovah's Witnesses as well. We offended on the last episode. So sorry. But he remembered, so we know he's listening. Okay, so he says,
it's like not doing something right.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you're allowed to or not, but I'd like to shout out Mission 22 instead of myself. If you're not familiar with the program, their program fights against veteran suicide. They offer 3-month sponsorships to gyms for any veteran in their program who qualifies or has a financial hardship. They also give standalone sponsorships to veterans who aren't able to afford them. So you can check them out at Mission 22. And on Facebook, it's just search Mission 22, or you can go to mission22.com. All right, and they're, again, the big part of our conversation when we talked about having you on was, military, PTSD. So it was just completely by coincidence that he sent that. So thank you, CJ, for shouting them out and for supporting the show. So again, let's kind of continue the conversation. I want to tell everybody how you and I met.
Sure.
Kinney, Coach Kinney, he was a friend of my fiance's family. Mm-hmm. I went to a New Year's party and everybody's like, you gotta be, I was like a UFC fanatic at the time. I wouldn't shut up about it. I did not train. They're like, you gotta meet this guy, Kenny. You guys are gonna get along great. He was sitting in a chair having his drink New Year's Eve. They introduced us and we just wound up talking, I think, for like at least a couple hours, if not most of the night. Fast forward, he opened a gym and I was one of his first students. I think he had one student that wound up quitting, but it was pretty much his first blue belt in that location. You and I met when you came to train, and I guess you and he had met through one of the support groups.
Yeah. So
go ahead, take it from there.
Yeah, we met through what is it called? Janine Lutz. I forget the name of her organization, but she had 2 sons that took their own lives. Okay. One of them was a Marine veteran. Okay. And he took his life, and then his brother shortly after. And she started an organization where, Buddy Up. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Buddy Up, and it's Let's Live to Tell. So, what her organization did is once a month, a whole bunch of veterans could come together and they could just fellowship. Mm-hmm. And during one of the very first meetings, that's when I met Kenny. And somebody was like, hey, this guy does jiu-jitsu too. You need to meet him. And I was just like, who's that? And he's like, well, I'm a black belt. And I was like, oh, all right. And, I was a little purple belt. Yeah, I thought I was king of the hill at that time, but then he showed me I wasn't. And then that's when I went to go visit your school and been friends with him ever since. Yeah. Sorry, my computer's making some noise. So I do remember rolling the. We used to be over in the corner being like, man, he's like a spider monkey. He's here 1 second, and then he's over here. The roles were crazy when we trained, but I never forgot you. Yeah. You shouted me out when you saw some stuff me posting about the podcast. I mean, we probably followed each other online and things like that. Yeah. But one of the things that I remember, and I'm not sure how much of it you want to maybe share, but
one of the things I loved about training with Kinney was that, you know, he had a lot of those buddy up guys come into the school. And, you know, again, probably white belt, you know, going to blue at that time. I didn't really know a lot about the military. I didn't know a lot about PTSD or experience that you guys were having in combat. And these guys would come in, and some days we would just go in, and all of a sudden we were sitting in a circle. We had our gis on, we're stretching, ready to go. And we never rolled, we never drilled. We just had these hour, sometimes 2-hour conversations. And I remember you from some of those conversations, and when you really kind of schooled us on kind of your opinions on what was going on and what was really going on, and kind of, you know, I don't know if you're okay with sharing this, but you told a story. I don't know if you remember this. You told a story about being in a vehicle where were you deployed?
Iraq,
right? You were in a vehicle and you had your gun trained on somebody, and then like your buddy in another vehicle came over. And, like, do you remember that story?
Remember that?
I remember that story. That stuck with me. That's how much it impacted me. I remember that. Do you mind sharing that story?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that was the day that like I reconnected with my humanity. I remember in a sense, right? Because you guys know day one in boot camp, you're like kill, kill, kill. You know, to a 17, 18, 19-year-old, you know, young man, it's like, oh shit, like I want to go kill. Yeah. You know, because one thing that society, what I realized, you know, in studying about like masculinity and things like that, like one thing that society is really missing is rituals, right? We don't have a rite of passage anymore. Like we don't go to the elders and they introduce us into manhood. Like those of us who went into the military, we were fortunate enough to have a boot camp where we had older males kind of teach us how to be a man. Okay. Right. But like for women, right, you literally have a blood sacrifice into womanhood. You know what I mean? Once you get your first period, it's like, okay, now you can have babies. Like you're a woman now. But men, we don't have that. You know, it's up to older males to teach us how to be males, and it's just lacking in society. So when you talk about warriors, right, it takes a special person to raise their right hand and be like, well, I swear to defend this country against all, you know, all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? It takes a special kind of person to do that. And then to be able to live that lifestyle for, you know, up to 4, 5, 20 years, right? You need some sort of coming back. So ancient cultures, they had rituals, right? The warriors would come back from war and they weren't able to go back into society. They had to spend time with the shaman, right? And do whatever cleansing rituals that they had to do. And then they were able to come back to society, and then society repurposed them. So it's like, you're going to be a farmer, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. So it's like society bared the brunt of the war. Like they bared the burden of the war. We don't have that. So that's the problem. You know, it's the lack of ritual. So to go back, you know, to the story, because, you know, I like telling stories.
Go ahead. Listen,
right.
The less I have to talk here, the better. All right.
I talk too much. You know what I mean? So you can stop me anytime, ask questions or whatever.
Go.
So, like I said, you know, kill, kill, kill. Like that's all I want to do. And you know, when I joined the military, I did it for the benefits. I'm not gonna lie, right? I did it for the benefits, and I'm like, you know.
And just as a side note, military family, you were both Marines. Your husband was is considered active, a Marine still, or he's active? I'm sorry.
Oh, he's still active.
He's active.
Great.
Yeah.
Retired this year.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, other than myself, I mean, you're surrounded by Marines and Marine families. So
yeah, for sure.
Just so everybody knows out there.
Yeah.
But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go.
No, it's cool. It's cool. So I joined for the benefits. Really, you know, I lack of male role models in my life. You know, and it was like, okay, college or the military, and I wasn't gonna pay for college. I was tired of school, and when I looked at all the military branches, it was like, well, if I could do the hardest branch of the military, then I could do anything in my life. But, you know, war kind of scared me a little bit, right? So it was like, okay, I'll go. When I took the ASVAB, they were like, okay, you could be communications. I was like, all right, cool. It sounds cool. I didn't know I was going to have to strap a radio to my back. Basically.
Help around.
Exactly.
Plus your stuff.
You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, I'm the highest target because I'm the radio man. Right?
Yeah.
Besides LT, so
right.
I didn't know, but whatever. So, so I end up, you know, I went through my, you know, boot camp, MCT, which is Marine Combat Training, and then went to my job school, my MOS school, which was, you know, field radio operator. that's when I found out that I'm gonna carry the radio on my back and be with anybody.
You thought you were gonna be like at a mic?
Oh yeah,
somewhere,
like, yeah, no, you're gonna be in the field. Exactly.
Too much Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So when I first got to my unit, I went to 1st Battalion 10th Marines. It was an artillery unit, and I thought I was gonna be doing like artillery, but 3 months into being in the fleet, they changed me to provisional infantry. They changed all of us to provisional infantry. So they took, a select group from comms, select group from motor T, a select group from supply, and they like grouped us all together. And they're like, okay, you guys, we did PSD, which is personal security detail. So we were in charge of protecting this one colonel, and this other group was in charge of protecting this general. And that,
okay. Right.
So all I did was convoys, right? So I did my original MOS. I did it for 3 months. So boom, we get to Iraq, doing convoys all the time. But the second day I was in Iraq, I shot at somebody, and it was like, yes, right? Because it was a vehicle coming at us, and it was a pickup truck, and we were doing route security, and we had to dismount, and I was looking at the truck coming, and we had certain rules of engagement. Like if it came within a certain amount of distance, we had to tell them to stop. If it kept coming, we'd shoot a flare. If it kept coming, we'd shoot at them. So vehicle kept coming, so I was like, pow, pow. And that just made me feel, because it's like, it's really like job satisfaction at that point. You know what I mean? You train. Finally, you get to do what you trained for, right? So I remember shooting at him. He swerved, and we had like north and southbound traffic going in the same, like imagine like 95 north and south in the same area. Big old traffic jam. But I remember that guy later on, because I remember it was a white truck. That guy, he was like just mean mugging me in traffic. Like by the time he got up, and there was 2 propane tanks in the back of his truck. Right. So he was pissed off at me, right? But the thing about it is, like, people who are like suicide bombers, they don't want to detonate before they actually fulfill what they were trying to do, right? So I knew that, like, then it kind of like hit me. It was like, oh damn, like if we wouldn't have shot at him, he would have came close. And 2 propane tanks, like what else did he have in there? Yeah. But when we saw him, he was like in the middle of traffic and far away from us, so that it wouldn't have done too much damage for us. So that's why I think he didn't. If he was a suicide bomber, that's what I think he did. Mm-hmm. So fast forward now, I'm like 4 months into my deployment, and I was a gunner, and it was cold. I just remember that day was freezing, and we left at 4:00 in the morning, and about like 9, sun's coming up. We're coming out of the desert, and we were making a right turn off of the desert going onto the main road. And in the center of the road, there was a lady and her daughter. They were wearing all black, and they just had on their burqas, I believe, whatever it's called, wearing all black. All I could see was their eyes, and they were herding a bunch of sheep. But what set my spidey senses off was that, like, yo, this is the Middle East. Why are 2 women, why are 2 females herding sheep? That's what men do over there, Mm-hmm. So that already put my spidey senses. And that was the 4th truck in the convoy. So if anything was going to happen, they were going to do it there to promote, like, the most damage. Mm-hmm. So I point my weapon at her. It was a 240 Golf. It's a pretty big machine gun. I point my weapon at her, and she goes like this and screams. She's like, ah! But, this looks like this, in the combat zone. So as soon as I seen her arms moving, it was like it was in slow motion. As soon as I seen her arms moving, I aim in. And in my mind now, 19-year-old kid, I'm ready to shoot this lady, because it was like, I have a responsibility. Like, I have to protect. This is my section of the convoy that I have to defend. So her arms are raising, I'm aiming in. And as soon as, like, I get my sight alignment, sight picture, like, ready to go, and I'm, like, literally about to put pressure on the trigger, the truck behind me, because remember, we're making a right turn, the truck behind me made an extra wide turn and ended up getting in my sight. So I went like this because I'm expecting her to explode now, and she didn't explode. So when she didn't explode, after the convoy was done, like, I asked, like, Lieutenant, I asked Staff Sergeant, I asked the Sergeant, I was like, why are we here? And they were like, just shut up and do your job. So when I talk about, like, reconnecting with my humanity, that's when I started questioning, like, okay, like, above our orders, why are we here? What are we doing? Like, why did I just want to shoot a woman in front of her kid? So when you talk about PTSD, right, we like to group all of the things that happen to military members after service. Like we like to group it into, the PTSD category. But no, there is so much more than PTSD that happens. Like what I was experiencing, what I come to later find out is that was like moral injury, right? Where it's like that went directly against my morals as a human being shooting a lady. But I was willing to do that to protect my boys, right? Because I was pissed off when I came out. When I started realizing these things, like I was very pissed off. I was like all anti-war and like, fuck the government, all of that. But then what I come to realize is that I didn't go to Iraq for the government. I didn't join the military for the government, right? Once you get in, you do it for the Marine to the left and the right of you. So I would have done anything to keep them boys alive. You know what I'm saying? So after the fact, I understand that. So I did whatever I had to do in Iraq to keep my boys alive.
So when I met you,
yes, sir,
around that time, I feel like I met the more militant, fuck the government guy.
Fuck the government guy.
Okay,
yes, you did.
So all right, so we did.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did, man. You were, So
yeah,
I think that you were in that phase still,
right? Because look, when I realized that more veterans lost their lives to suicide than actual combat, it's like, how can I like as a warrior? How can I live with that? It's like, well, if I wasn't fighting the right people there, then I got to go fight the right people now, which is fuck the government. Now me, regardless of how loud and passionate I could get on stage or whatever, I am not going to do anything to the government. The system.
Make that clear, Mr. Trump.
Right? I could go around talking about not my president and all that shit. You know what I mean? But it's not going to serve anything. It's going to miss the bottom line of what I want to do, which is help my brothers and sisters.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Transitioning out the military is one of the hardest things that a human being could do because you're in a high structured environment. You were told what to do from when you wake up till you go to bed. And everybody struggles with it because there's not a proper transition. People that come out of prison, they struggle with it too. People that come out of group homes, they struggle with it. So
there's a lot of fights out there. You just got to pick your fight.
You just got to pick your fight.
Because you can't deal with each and every category of that, right? So your mission has been for veterans, to assist veterans.
Yeah. Yes.
So and whomever might also come from that, right?
Yeah.
So we were talking about that a little bit before the show, and you kind of touched on it a little bit now, which is there's PTSD. PTSD isn't specific to the military.
Yeah.
Right? Do you address that in some of the things that you're doing or that you've done, trying to help veterans and, or people, period,
So when I came out, right, I started doing jiu-jitsu like a madman, right? I was training like twice a day. I actually got my blue belt from the same guy who gave your coaches, all of your coaches, their blue belt, Armando Condi.
Okay.
And then it's crazy because as soon as I got my blue belt, Armando had to leave, and then I went to Cyborg like they did.
Okay.
And I was training at Cyborgs, and at that time it was the Avengers days, so you could train at Cyborgs, Popovich, or Wagner's. And, we were all like one big team. We were the Avengers. And I went to Pablo's one night. And it's interesting because me and Junior got our ACL torn by the same dude.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Come get you, Yvonne.
Coming for you, bro.
Got your number one day. No, I'm kidding. I love you, man.
Yeah, for sure. It's all love, That's the cool thing about jiu-jitsu. It's like we're fighting, but, there's no love lost.
Yeah,
there's no animosity.
It's a hug at the end.
Yeah, you hug at the end. And if you have animosity, you're an asshole. And you need to figure that thing out. You know what I mean? Check your ego at the door.
Yeah.
So we tore our ACL from the same dude, right? So it wasn't done out of spite or anything. We were just wrestling, and my toe got caught in the mat, and it tore. But at that point, I still haven't dealt with anything that happened in the military because I went on embassy duty after I got back from Iraq and had the best 3 years of my life. It was a party. Like, you literally have a bar in your house that you have to keep stocked, and you have to have a party once a month to raise money for the Marine Corps ball. Yeah. So, sometimes, Marines, like, we come home, to noon, we open up the bar, do some day drinking or whatever. Like, the bar was there. So I had, great time. Come back home, doing jiu-jitsu, and the cool thing about jiu-jitsu is that, like, you find your brotherhood at jiu-jitsu. Like, as soon as we finish rolling, we just talk shit off the mats, right?
Mm-hmm. That's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly why we're here.
Yeah.
So we did that, You know what I mean? So it was good. And then, you know, you meet other people, you know, you see other people from different walks of life, and you're just like, you know, we could come here and we all fellowship here. We all beat the crap out of each other. We get our exercise, we get our therapy and our choke therapy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then move on, you know? So I was doing that. So there was no reason for me to address anything, you know? And another thing about post-traumatic stress, which I come to find out, is that it doesn't start in a war zone, right? Usually people that are traumatized, they're traumatized from well before that. And I had childhood trauma.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my dad going to jail when I was 9 years old, right? Him leaving my life when I was 14, him cheating and having a whole nother family, you know, outside. And we're cool now. I love my dad to death now. Like I feel like you never understand the sins of your father till you commit them yourself, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like it took me a while to understand that as a man, and now we're cool. But it's like my trauma, my PTSD started when I was a child, right? So I forgot what was the question again. You know, I'll be going in circles.
No, this is fine. No, this is great. This is stuff that people need to hear. I've never heard this in this way.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, you're kind of giving us a timeline. You had embassy duty. You came back. You started training jiu-jitsu twice a day.
Oh yeah, and I told my ACL.
The end game here is to kind of talk to, you know, people about, you know, kind of let's get into jiu-jitsu.
What led you to face your potential PTSD? What opened that door?
And then how are you sharing that with other people too? I mean, ultimately,
cool.
you know, we want people that are listening out there to understand a little bit more about PTSD at the end of this, and also, you know, kind of learn a little bit about how jiu-jitsu can help them with their PTSD.
For sure.
Right? So
you've
kind of given us a timeline to this
for
point.
sure. So Junior asked me a great question before we even started. You know, you asked me, what is the stigma? Like you said something about stigma, right?
What's the stigma behind the term PTSD? What do people automatically think?
Yeah, and my answer to him was that like it's like a disorder, it's a disease, you know what I mean? And it's really just a normal response to an abnormal situation, right? The things that kept you alive during your traumatic situation, right? That it's what kept you alive then, but it doesn't necessarily serve you in your day-to-day life, right? So one of the things is like extreme outbursts of anger. Right now, if you think of a war zone, right, they teach you to depress your emotions and express them in anger, right? This is what they teach you as a Marine, right? Or even like, you know, males in society, right? This is what we teach them. Depress your emotions, express it in anger, right? So with that teaching, it doesn't necessarily serve you out here. How are veterans supposed to, you know, raise their children? How are they supposed to deal with their wives or, you know, the husband for some of those veterans? You know what I mean? But how are we supposed to deal with day-to-day lives when we were taught very well?
It's a screaming culture.
Right?
Marine Corps. Everything is, you're going to do what I tell you when I tell you.
When I tell you, yeah.
And you get used to that. And that's the way you speak to everybody. And it just
doesn't really work.
It doesn't work with everybody else, and it doesn't work with your kids and your family, like you're saying.
As the non-military guy here, I mean, my father was in the Navy. I never ever said the words like, "Yeah, I'm from a military family." You know, he did his time during Vietnam and didn't really talk about it, to be honest. As a layman, I'm kind of, when I hear PTSD, I automatically assume like bomb went off, that person was shot. Now they have PTSD. That's what, and I think most people probably think that as well. Yeah. Bomb went off. I saw somebody, you know, I saw my friend get shot. Like, that's all we know. Because I mean, really, that's right. I mean, PTSD is a new term. The last 20 years, really, since not even the first time we went into Iraq, right? The second time.
No, it's the second time, yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, they called it like being shell shocked.
Shell shock.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
things like
so
Gulf
for a
War
guy,
syndrome.
well, there you go. So for a guy like me, it's like, no, a bomb must have went off near his head, or he watched a buddy get a leg blown off, or he got shot. That's what we think PTSD is.
And that's a dangerous.
So not to cut you off, but I think there's a stigma there too, because it's not PTSD, right? It's PTS, right? Post-traumatic stress. That's what you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. It's not a disorder, right? It's not a disease, right? And I think that's what you're saying. And that's where we've been programmed to say that all the time, PTSD. Mm-hmm. And that's what people think. You have a disease. It's not, right? It's post-traumatic stress. Just like anything. You're driving down and you just wake up, the red light goes off, and you could have hit somebody. All right? Just that traumatic stress, that release of adrenaline into your body is going to cause something different to change within you, right?
Yeah, I mean, and okay, let's take it a step further again. And I'm not saying that these are the right thoughts, or I'm just saying someone like me would then go, that guy's PTSD. If he's over there, I want to be over there because that guy can snap at any minute. That's the guy that's going to take a gun into an office. That's the perception that this country or the world has taught us.
Which is
tell
a
me why
dangerous.
I'm wrong. Tell me
it's a
why
dangerous
and how I'm wrong.
mindset to have, right? Because number one, like it causes that separation, right? So now imagine if that guy over there was your dad, or your brother, right? It's literally me screaming for help, and it's just like you're like, whoa, like you're fucked up. You need to go to the VA or something, or go talk to your buddies because I can't handle it, right? So that's one aspect, right? It causes separation, but also it causes you to diminish your own experiences, right? Because they have people in Japan right now still receiving therapy for what they saw on TV from 9/11, right? In Japan, right? And one thing that people don't really discuss when it comes to post-traumatic stress is epigenetics, right? The fact that trauma gets passed down in your DNA from your mother, right? Wow. So when you're a little embryo, whatever trauma that she has gets passed down to you. But when you think of it in an evolutionary perspective, right, it makes sense. Because if your mom developed this behavior to keep herself alive, then automatically she's going to pass it down to her offspring. Yeah. Right. So like I said, normal response to an abnormal situation, but it doesn't always serve you. So that's the issue, is epigenetics, right? Where the people in Japan, right, there's 2 atomic bombs that went off.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Yeah.
They're having therapy because of that.
Well,
they're receiving therapy because of that.
But what it is just like, imagine the people that actually survived that. That was the 40s. You know what I'm saying? Like the grandparents of the people that are living there now, the great-grandparents, the grandparents of the people that are living there now, right? You imagine they have this post-traumatic stress that gets passed down in their genes, and then all of a sudden they see something happen in America that was just as traumatic as them getting atomic bombs dropped on them, but they don't know because it's inside of them. It's in their cells, right? So they see that, they get traumatized, and then they start getting therapy. Nobody understands why, right? It's easy for, like, let's say like a hardened combat vet to look at somebody like that and be like, oh, you're soft because you weren't even there, right? You didn't even experience half the shit that I went through.
We're very dismissive about.
Yeah.
That's true. Because we'll dismiss things like that, like you're saying. Like he must have some PTSD. Like
when you say we,
as a society, I say we.
Oh, so we
as
or
a,
as
no,
a veteran?
we as a society.
But even veterans like Marines, like we'll look at other branches of service and be like, shut up, you pussy. Like you didn't go through half the shit I went through. Right? We're Marines. You know what I mean?
Top of the heap, right?
Of course. So it's easy to get lost in those narratives, right? But when you start peeling the layers back, you understand that we're all human beings, right? We're all like, our basic thing that we're doing is just trying to survive. But with survival comes these different things because our environment, it evolved way faster than our biology, right? So we're dealing with our primitive mindsets, our primitive structures, but these complex situations such as, trauma getting passed down in the genes and us not really understanding it, right? So the best way to approach post-traumatic stress, right? And I love the way that you talked about it was like, let's drop the D, right? Let's drop the stigma, and let's talk about like everybody has experienced some type of trauma. Everybody has experienced some type of post-traumatic stress. Even being born is a traumatic experience. You imagine being all warm and cozy inside your mom, and then all of a sudden you're like pulled out and it's cold and there's a bunch of lights and you have this fucking doctor, slapping you in the ass. Like you're like, you know what I mean? That's trauma right there. You're like, oh shit, you know what I mean? And now you have to deal with the world. Yeah. And now you have to depend. Hopefully you have a good mom. If you're lucky enough, you have both mom and dad there, right? But some kids don't even have that, and that's when their trauma starts, right when they're born. So
let me ask you this: do most, and I don't know if anybody will have an answer to this question, but do most people with PTSD, post-traumatic stress, do they usually hurt? Do they hurt? Maybe I'm thinking about this question now and saying this might be stupid. No, do they typically hurt themselves or hurt others?
So what I believe,
if they hurt somebody, or is it more internalized and they
let's just first say we're not doctors.
Yeah, let's say that first.
No, in your humble opinions. You know what I'm saying?
No, for all of us, I think, right? We're not giving out advice.
We're not giving out medical advice. Disclaimer.
From what we see, from what you observe, right?
Yeah.
Right. So your question is, do you think these people are prone to want to hurt themselves?
Do you know? I mean, as some you're well educated in this subject, at least, you know, in what you're saying. Do you know the answer to that? You know,
I mean, like he said, there's no perfect answer to it, but I feel like, okay, when we're talking about like veterans, all right, it's like when you a warrior, right, needs a mission, right? We need to fight something. But the problem is that when we transition out of service and we have nothing to fight, we end up fighting ourselves, which to me is one of the main causes of the veteran suicide, because there's a lack of mission there. So you have a warrior, we're used to fighting something, and if we don't have anything to fight for, we're going to fight ourselves, right?
Okay. Let me jump in there too, because I think also it depends on that person, right? So let's say that person is successful, right? Let's say they've had stress in their life and they just overcame something and now they're very successful. That happiness can potentially drive them into nothing but happiness. But if they have a wrong turn into failure, right? Yeah, then there's a lot of other things that go along with failure, to include addiction, right? Addiction can be drugs, addiction can be gambling, addiction can be a lot of different things, right? Can make things worse. So you put yourself in a hole for 250 grand, right? Mm-hmm. That's probably going to want to lead you to hurt yourself, right? So, or, hey, things aren't going right. This guy cut me off. There was just a veteran that got killed not that long ago here in South Florida because of an argument in a road rage incident.
Okay.
Marine
happened right there in Davie.
Just ends up getting shot because of somebody's too angry and doesn't know how to deal with. And that's a perfect example. You're too angry. You don't know how to deal with your emotions, right? And that's why you're hurting other people and hurting yourself. So that's stress. That guy has to have. People are angry because they have something that's happened to them in the past. Okay. Right? It's not, again, if your life is great for the most part, right? You're given everything, you have a great education, you have a great job. Do you have a need to be angry? You can find a reason. You can subjective. You can find a reason to be angry, right? Yeah. You could find a reason to be angry. But at the same time, if you have all these things that are going bad for you, so again, there's a stigma too, right? Because normal people can hurt themselves just like somebody that has PTS.
So in your timeline, let's kind of jump forward to something that I know about you, and we didn't discuss this previously. Where does the combat hippies fit into all this? Oh, can we talk about that? I know I don't think you're part of that group anymore.
No,
or no. But okay, so you're training jiu-jitsu. You're going to create your purple belt. You're training jiu-jitsu.
Well, hold on. I tore my ACL.
Tore your ACL.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tore my ACL, and then I fell into the nastiest depression ever because I was dating this beautiful Dominican woman at the time, right? Damn Dominicans. That was
your first mistake.
Damn Dominicans. That's another. We'll leave that for another.
We just lost all the Dominicans.
So beautiful, like roses.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So I was dating a beautiful Dominican woman. I owned a house at the time. You know, I was going to school, getting paid to go to school. And then I was also working at the gym that I was training at. So I was doing pretty good, you know. Tear my ACL, and I started like leaning on her a little bit too much. And in her words, she became the man in the relationship. Mm-hmm. Now you imagine, right? Yeah, you know, here I am, jiu-jitsu blue belt. I'm winning tournaments and stuff. You know, got a six-pack kind of swole. And you're like,
that's a punch in the pocket, man.
You know, yeah. So I'm dealing with ACL injury and heartbreak.
Yeah.
And I just fell into the rabbit hole. Just I circled the drain. And I started drinking a lot. Like that, like I started drinking a lot. All I wanted to do was be on my couch, you know, playing video games or whatever. And, you know, I was just, you know, gaining weight, just being Mr. Sourpuss all the time, you know, just mad at the world.
Woe is me.
Woe is fucking me, you know. And finally, you know, at the urging of like my mother and brother, they were like, yo, you need to go get some help. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll just go to the VA. Fuck it. So I went to the VA, and the psychiatrist, right, I'm talking to her, and she's like, well, how does PTSD affect your life? I was like, well, you know, I'm having nightmares. I just tore my ACL. I can't do anything. I'm all depressed. You know, I'm a little anxious. You know, I don't like supermarkets. Like, I started telling her, like, the whole gamut of what's going on. And literally, like, I told her, and then she went like this. And then she's like, mm-hmm. So right then and there, like I just felt like an extreme disconnection, Like, it's like almost like she didn't care what I had to say. Like, she was just like, oh, he said he can't sleep, so I need to get him some sleeping medication. Oh, he's depressed. Let me get him
it's
some.
It's like an interview instead of a two-way conversation, and somebody's going to help you.
Yeah,
They're interviewing you.
And that's not what I needed at the time. I needed somebody to hear me out.
A human connection.
Yeah. Like, why am I thinking about Iraq here? What was that, like 2011? I went to Iraq in 2006. Why is it 5 years later that I'm thinking about this right now? You know, why am I having nightmares about that place? And, you know, I didn't get it. So she prescribes me all of these medications. You know what I mean? And I just happened to look at the antidepressant, and it said suicidal ideation is a possible side effect. You know, that's the black box warning on all antidepressants. And I was like, oh, so this thing's gonna make me feel just good enough, so I don't want to kill everybody else. I just want to kill myself. You know what I mean? Like, there's something going on.
Yeah. So
that's what led me to look up the veteran suicide rate for whatever reason. And then when I heard that it was 22 a day, you know, this is 2012, and I'm like, no, like, this is not my path. Like, and I was studying computers at the time in school, and I was like, you know, I need to figure out how to fix myself in order to inspire others to do the same. You know, and to inspire literally means to breathe life into. You know, so it's not like, well, do what I do because, you know, I'm the best at it or I just know everything. No, it's like, let me share my experience with you, and hopefully it'll breathe life into you if it needs to. So I went to school, and I was just like, hey, well, how's the fastest way for me to become some sort of therapist? And they were like, social work. I was like, all right, sign me up. And I ended up getting my degree in social work. So during that time when I wasn't training, I realized that I loved writing, but more so than writing, I loved performing. And when my dad left when I was 14, the way that I dealt with those emotions is that I wrote it. Like, I just used to write poems about it. And that helped me, you know, be at peace. So one night I come home, it's a full moon outside, and I just go on my back patio and I start writing something. And I was like, you know what? I want people to understand what it's like as a veteran going through post-traumatic stress. So I wrote this piece called Post-Traumatic Growth, because at the time, you know, the school was like 45 minutes away from where I lived. I went to FAU, so it was like 45 minutes away from where I lived. So I used to listen to like YouTube videos, you know, motivational talks or whatever. And Tony Robbins was the first person that I ever heard talked about post-traumatic growth. Because just like you said earlier, Junior, like sometimes like you'll be going through something bad, but then like you just figure out a way like to make it good. Now, I don't remember what the words you said earlier, but it was like you just like you find some sort of growth in that situation, right? Now, what turns people either way, I have no idea, right? Where two people could be in the same exact situation, but one decides to go, like, you know, if you're living with an alcoholic father, one decides not to be an alcoholic, the other one becomes a raging alcoholic.
Right.
I don't know what the variable is with that. Like, that's one thing I don't understand about human nature.
Right.
Maybe somebody smarter than me, maybe somebody out there can figure that out for me, but I don't know. All right, but he was the first one I heard say something about post-traumatic growth, and I was just like, bing! So I named the piece Post-Traumatic Growth. Now, mind you, if you go look it up.
Did you give him credit for that?
Because it's not his term. It's a scientific term. It's a scientific term, so nobody can take credit for it. All right. Everybody was like, you should copyright that term. I was like, it's not mine. Right? But what I did is I start off very happy in the piece, and then like I just ripped, because I when I did it, I had my uniform on, right? So like I rip off my uniform, just and then, you know, it was a pretty good piece for, like, you know, at the time, like it really got people's attention. Now, mind you, if you go look up the video, you're going to see me, like, you know, in my uniform, ripping this shit off. It says Iraq Veterans Against the War. Because, mind you, I was mad because there was more deaths in suicide than there was in combat. So forgive me, Marines out there. You go look at it. I think I even had a beard on. Like, I didn't give a fuck. Right? Now, I'd be like, ooh, you know, I probably wouldn't do that. But whatever. You know, I don't regret anything. It is what it is, right?
Part of the journey.
Yeah. But it got a lot of people's attention, you know, and that was the purpose, right? To get people to start, you know, looking into these things. And I did post-traumatic growth, and what that led to was the creation of the Combat Hippies.
Okay.
So the Combat Hippies consisted of me and 3 other veterans, and we all had the mission to share our stories with the mission of promoting post-traumatic growth. Like, this is what we went through. But the reason why we're coming on stage and being vulnerable, or like what I like to call like your vulnerable ability, right? There's powers that you get from being vulnerable, right? Sharing your story of things that, you know, may make you cringe, right? You don't know how that may empower somebody that's on the other side of what you're saying. So that's why, like, I'm open book. Like, you just ask me whatever. You know what I mean? You're gonna ask me about, when I call that female marine a bitch in China later.
We'll get to that.
You know what I'm saying? But I have no shame in that because, hopefully it'll inspire somebody else, right? That may be going through the same thing. Mm-hmm. So we came together and, we created the Combat Hippies because, in the military, if you're the cameraman, you're the combat cameraman. If you're the water boy, you're the combat water boy. Everything has combat in front of it. So it was like, all right, so combat, you're focused on the mission, meaning and purpose of what you're doing, right? And then hippies, we love trees, we love people. So it's just like, well, that's the nice little mix between the two. So combat hippies. So we actually created a show, right? And it went from our childhood, service, and post-service experiences. And we created it ourselves, with the help of Teo Castellanos. He's a well-known theater artist in Miami and director. And he does original work, so it's not like somebody comes to write the script. You write your own damn script. And we did it, and we toured that show for like 3 years, and it was a hit. Everybody loved it.
Wow.
Right? Everybody loved it. And, some of the stuff was a little edgy, right? Because there was one point, like, my service piece, right? In it, I would, like, there was one time where when I came back from Iraq, I had a drinking problem. I'm not gonna even lie. Like, I had a drinking problem. And my cousins, they would be like, hey, you are on a 2-drink limit. Like, that's it. Right? And one day we were at a party, and for whatever reason, my cousins that were supposed to be babysitting me, they left. And my other cousin had this big bottle of Bacardi. And they were like, don't let Drew drink that. As soon as they left, I was like, Bobby, man, come on. I just got back from war, bro. Let me get some. So Bobby gives me the bottle. So by the time my other 2 cousins come back, that bottle was done. Over. So then this girl walks up to me and she's just like, hey, you just came back from Iraq. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, have you ever killed anybody? And I was like, have I? Right? And I was like, I was surrounded by 10 terrorists. And as I gazed upon all 15 with nothing left but my knife, I was determined to send all 20 of them to see Allah. Right? And then the number just keeps going up and I go nuts. And I tell this whole story. Then I was like, toss a grenade over my shoulder and boom, I was out that motherfucker. And I just walked out of the room and everybody was in tears, crying, laughing. So, that was a real story that I actually took from and I made it into part of my service piece. But after, like, you guys laugh, like, because it's hilarious. Yeah. But then I say, like, the funniest thing about war, it ain't funny. And then I start going in about it, right? Talking about like the military industrial complex and all these different things, right? But at the end of the piece, I quote General Smedley Butler. And General Smedley Butler, right? They teach him about us in boot camp. Yeah. Greatest Marine that ever lived. 2 Medal of Honors. Like, they talk about this man like they built him up. But if you look at what he did after service, he was the most anti-war Marine that ever lived. Because he wrote War is a Racket. And one of the quotes is that war is a racket. It is and it always has been. It is possibly the oldest, surely the most vicious and easily the most profitable. It is the only racket in which profits are reckoned in dollars and losses in lives. So the way I end the piece, I'm like, so as I stand here with a piece of my soul lost in the sands of crime, have I killed anybody, you ask? Yes. And you're staring right at them.
Wow.
So that was part of the show,
That's heavy, man.
That's good stuff.
That's heavy.
Right?
We need a break.
That's only a piece of the show.
That's only a little piece.
And I've always hated myself for not going. I mean, I've seen stuff online, but I never went to the show. I know you had invited us one time, and I didn't go.
It's all good. It's all good. And you're hearing about it now.
Yeah.
So, we did that show, and it was amazing. We've had it. What we did is, like, we helped the families feel comfortable enough to start asking questions, because it's not like, oh, well, what did you do over there? Now it's like, hey, these guys said this. Like, what do you have? You have experience with that? And, vice versa, where it's like the veterans feel comfortable enough to talking to their families now. Okay. So that's what I got from being with the Combat Hippies. It was like allowing those conversations to start, or just to kind of normalize it, where it's like, you can get post-traumatic stress from anything. Like one of our guys, he wasn't even a combat vet, but he was mortuary affairs. So he's seen all the aftermath. He was the one that had to go to Dover, is Dover Air Base?
Clean Jersey.
Clean bodies.
Yep, clean bodies. And his pieces, like when you listen, because he was very good at writing, extremely well, very descriptive. And when he talked about how he had to go through the journals of these guys and gals, right? The guys and gals, these men and women, right? And you have to check for OPSEC, like operational security. So we have to make sure that there's no confidential material in their belongings. So going through their computer, going through their journals. Are you imagine having to see their deepest thoughts and like their fears and they're between their girlfriend and boyfriend? Crazy. So he was fucked up from all of that. He never seen a day in combat, right?
Wow.
So it was good to have him on board because it's like, it's not just combat that messes you up. It's life, right? We all have been traumatized, but we all have a choice, right? Because that's what I felt like it came down to. It's like, there comes a point where you just have to decide, like, am I going to let this thing paralyze or propel me? Do I want to grow or do I just want to wallow? Like, it's
and I think that answers your question. That you had, what determines when a person goes either north or south, right?
Yeah.
Good or bad, and that's it. You have to overcome it.
Yeah.
You have no other obstacle but to overcome it. And I guess that's the answer to your question.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right. But what inspire? Well, I guess inspire. Like,
but the thing is, you know what I think does that is organizations, individuals that can be mentors, right? Like kind of the program that you've put together. So you take these vets, have these vets get to you, and what have you found? Because I know what I found as a vet doing jiu-jitsu, Raul too. What have you found in jiu-jitsu that can help vets?
Peace.
Specifically.
Peace. Because as warriors, like, we have to fight something. And you don't have to be a vet to be a warrior. Like, every man has 4 archetypes within them. King, warrior, magician, lover. It's a great book if you want to check it out. But we all have it. Yeah. Vets lean more towards the warrior side. But I think all people that do jiu-jitsu, and for women, it's queen, warrior, magician. There's a great book for women, too. It's called Women Who Run with Wolves. It's a great book.
It's a cool title.
Yeah. It's a great book. It's even written better than King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, but it just talks about the different archetypes that live within you.
I'll make sure that we put that into the YouTube description of the video so that we'll put a link to both.
And I think Amazon has like affiliate links, so you maybe get like a 15% kickback.
I don't know nothing about that.
Just saying it because, we all deserve, we all deserve abundance. Yeah. Something I had to learn, growing up poor, like, we deserve an abundance of anything that we do. You know what I mean? We do something good like this, right? We share our stories. We deserve a little kickback. Why not? Right? So, as warriors, like, we have to have a mission and have to fight for something. So what it does, it allows us to fight, essentially, right? But it's like you're fighting against yourself, but in a healthy manner. Because, when you step on the mat, you can't hide yourself. You having a bad day is going to show up on the mat. You're all like tense and stuff, it's going to show up until you get so tired where you can't be tense anymore. Yeah. Right? If you're too like lackadaisical and lazy, white belt's going to pass you. No offense. I mean, you're almost a person. You're almost a blue belt, right?
He said you're almost
a person.
Hey, I'm sorry. My cousin calls me white belt racist. Hey, listen. I've had white belts hurt me throughout my process way too much. And I know I was a crazy white belt too. It's like, especially those giant white belts, 200 pounds, like, I'll roll with you later. Like, I don't want nothing to do with that.
Get a couple stripes. Man. Yeah.
Get a couple stripes, maybe a blue belt, then we can roll.
Raul is a 3-year white belt. Some medical issues, just like me, that have made his journey a little bit longer, but he's not stopping. So maybe a blue belt.
He's not the spazzy white belt.
He's not the spazzy white belt.
Yeah, I burned the spaz out a little while ago. But it was there, no doubt.
It was there. And look, you see him? Yeah. You see him? You see the light right there?
Yeah.
Imagine that laying on top of you. Yeah. I know what that's like. But go ahead.
But that's another good thing, right? Like the pressure. Well, one thing I realized with jiu-jitsu is that, like, the pressure of having somebody that's trying to choke you out, trying to manipulate your joints to make them hurt, like trying to tap you out, right? You're constantly thinking, constantly problem solving, right? Yeah. You're constantly doing that. So how you do one thing, you do everything, right? So you're doing that in your day-to-day life. So when we think in terms of like like veterans, right? We need something to do because we're warriors. We need a mission. Okay, show up to jiu-jitsu. You fight against yourself. You're fighting for something, right? You're getting out that testosterone that's been just built up, right? You get that out, right? Boom. Now, what's the one thing that we miss at the military is the brotherhood. So how much times do you find or sisterhood, you know what I mean? How many times do you find yourself, you tired as hell, you lean your back up against the mat, and then you start talking to your boys. I mean, you start talking to whoever's there, you know what I mean? So there goes that brotherhood aspect that's missing. So
that 1 hour class is 2.5 hours, 3 hours before you get out of there, right?
Let me tell you something. I don't know what it is about Mauricio, but Mauricio just, if I ever show up and something's wrong, at the end of the class, I'll be like, "What happened? Everything all right?"
Yeah, I think that's
he always. I don't know what it is
you know?
about his intuition, what he has, but he'll be the guy that's everything all right, man. You seem something's up. And I don't know if he just seen. Yeah, you can't hide on the mat.
No.
Yeah.
Like if you're tenser than usual, it's just like, or like if you get angry, right? If it's like, okay, we roll every day, and then all of a sudden, like you get pissed off because like I took you down or something. Like, bro, what's wrong? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on?
I've had one or two of those.
You know what I'm saying? We've all had it.
Yeah. Or you get sloppy.
Yeah.
You get sloppy messing up things that you do all the time, right?
Yeah.
You get choked out. You're like, how'd that happen?
Yeah. And you just get pissed, right? And it's just like, yo, what's going on? And then when you start peeling back the layer, you start uncovering that onion. It's like, oh, you're having trouble with your wife, right? You're having trouble in your life. You know, what's going on? Like me and my boy James, he's a 03, you know, he's a grunt. Right, sniper, been to Iraq like 7 times, you know what I mean? Iraq and Afghanistan, bunch of times. And him and I, a lot of the times, it's me and him in a corner, just saying like, yo, I don't know what the fuck to do right now. Like, I'm just going crazy. And, you know, him and I talk, and we'll go get some acai, maybe go catch a beer, and it's cool, right? You find that support system, because another thing that we're missing in society right now is tribes, right? We don't have tribes anymore. And the whole point, you know, the whole reason why we survived like in the caveman days is because we had a tribe. You know, we had a tribe, and it was important that the tribe liked us, and it was important that we what the hell is the word?
Adapt to everybody in the
we
work with everybody.
Contribute. Yeah, we work well with the tribe, right? That's why like it's so hard like when people don't like us, that people take it so hard. It's because we're programmed
to want to be accepted.
Exactly, because that's what kept us alive when we needed tribes.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like tribes of like-minded people. That's why we could come together as jiu-jitsu from all different walks of life. Like even though all 3 of us are Marines, like I'm sure we do things different. You know what I mean? You never served in the Corps, but we have that jiu-jitsu that bonds us. You know what I mean? You have family that was in the military, right? But military is just one hat that I wore in my life. You know what I mean? Military, throw that off. Brown belt, throw that off. Brother, father, uncle, all these different things, right? But the tribe is what kept us together. Right, so like my tribe of individuals that stay around me, I am around them more than my blood family. I like them more than my blood family. Most of my blood family I don't even like. You know what I mean? I would say no offense to them, but I really don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So this is going on the internet, and we're done.
They can see it. People, look, all I can be is authentic. I have my tribe, and then everybody else, it's like, I have my tribe, I have my jiu-jitsu homies, and I have my military veteran homies. Those are like I had a birthday last week, and I posted a picture of me as a kid just smiling, right? And I realized that I am just as happy today as I was then, because I started thinking about all the things that I was thankful for, and it was just like, yo, like where would I be without my tribe? Where would I be without my jiu-jitsu homies? Where would I be without my military veteran homies? Right?
So how are you bringing those two together? Like, again, when I met you, Kenny, you guys were part of the Buddy Up program. Are you still involved with anything where you're trying to bring jiu-jitsu to vets?
So when I was involved with the Combat Hippies, there was a program called the Phoenix's Rising Retreats, right? And they reached out. I forgot how they got my information, but they reached out to me, and they were like, hey, 6-day retreat, call us if you're interested. And I didn't even look at where it was, what it was going to be about or anything. I just signed up. Like, sign me up, because, my name is Drew Phoenix, and it was the Phoenix Rising Retreats. I was like, sign me up.
It's meant to be.
You know what I mean? So I went, and it was at an ashram. An ashram is basically a group of people that come together that pool resources. They're like spiritual people. It was started in India, I believe. And, it's usually like Hindu, Buddhist based. right? But what they do is they come together, they grow their own food for the most part, you know what I mean? And it's just communal living. You know, they pray together, they worship, they do whatever together. And it's at an interfaith ashram. So if you go around the lake, there's like Jesus over there, Buddha's over there, Lord Shiva's over there, Hanuman's over there, like all these different representation. And there's a bunch of monks walking around that you can ask them questions and stuff. So it's a very peaceful place. And then when I showed up, you know, I'm seeing all these things. I'm like, okay, this is cool. You know, I still didn't know what was going on. And, you know, the retreat, you know, you get to share your story. You know what I mean? That you get to do different activities. You get to do yoga, meditation, acupuncture. And you also did EMDR, which is the best therapy that I've ever experienced. Because one thing, I do encourage therapy to everyone. Because when I was going through school and social work, right, one thing that one of my professors said is just like, listen, all of you want to be therapists, you need to go get your own therapy. Because we're all fucked up.
Jiu-Jitsu is my therapy.
Oh, for sure.
That's a shirt, isn't it?
For sure.
I think so. Not one of mine.
Choke therapy, baby.
Choke therapy. That's it.
Choke therapy.
Hold on one second.
Right?
Right there. Make that into a shirt. Let me get credit on that.
No credit. No credit.
Nah, bro. You
It's
gotta
out
put
there
Junior
already.
Vega.
Yeah.
Sign it. Right, but the reason why jiu-jitsu works as a therapy, right, an effective therapy, is because trauma gets stored in the non-verbal parts of your brain, right? So in your limbic system, where it's like fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's where trauma gets stuck, because you literally, like what I like to call is a combat reflex. You develop a combat reflex. So like me, if somebody scares me, I don't jump back. I jump forward like this. And then I realize, like, you know, it could be my mom or my kid or somebody that just startled me, but I never jump back. And I always got to tell my niece, like, yo, stop that. You know what I mean? Because like I'm like this and I'm looking at her, you know, it's so cute. And I'm like, chill, like, don't do that. Right? But it's because it's something that kept me alive in a war zone that doesn't necessarily serve me now. Right? But it's in my non-verbal parts of my brain that I can't talk it out. So talk therapy is good to a certain extent, but you need to actually do something, right? It's the whole thing that you can't just talk and don't do. That's what my dad always used to tell me. Can't talk and don't do. Right? So when it comes to jiu-jitsu, it's an effective therapy because you're actually doing something. EMDR, you're doing something, because what they do is they either make you follow their finger like this, so your eyes are moving back and forth, and it literally stimulates your left and right brain, or they make you do this, or tap on your legs, right? So you're stimulating both your left and your right brain, and what it does is, like, they ask you certain questions, like, it's a whole modality, right? They ask you certain questions, and what it do is, like, they'll ask me, okay, this thing happened, okay, when you saw the little girl in Iraq, what did it remind you of? Boom, boom, boom. And then whatever was stuck in that nonverbal part of your brain, it just comes to your frontal lobe. It's like, bang! And you're like, oh, shit. And you remember something. And then it's like it kind of brings it to the forefront. And then you're able to reprocess the memory. Right? So it is the most effective form of therapy that I've ever experienced. And I encourage everybody to do it. Does the VA offer it? Sometimes. Right? But, you know, there's a bunch of other therapy out there that I don't really like very much. You know, like, whatever. That doesn't even matter. But that one is the most effective. So they couple that at the retreats. They couple that with the yoga, the meditation, and everything. So it's like nice and holistic, right? So I went through it, and then they offer like aftercare afterwards. So if you want to continue therapy, you can continue therapy. If you want to continue doing yoga, you can continue doing yoga, right? They'll pay for it. And I must have did something right, because then after like maybe 6 months later, when they had another retreat, they called me back to become veteran liaison. So like that little go-between between the veterans and the providers. Yeah. Okay. And then I was doing that for like 3 years. Yeah. So that was very rewarding, very purposeful, you know, being able to work with combat vets and share my story, and just being able to hold space, you know what I mean, and be able to empower them. And it was a post-traumatic growth retreat. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, you're fucked up because of this, or you're fucked up because of that. No. It's like, all right, let's put it all on the table. Let's do our yoga. Let's do our meditation. Let's do our therapy, and let's grow. So that's how. And then, of course, I'm encouraging them to do jiu-jitsu the whole way. You know what I mean? I can't stop talking about jiu-jitsu. People they're like, you keep talking about, like, when I was at the Combat Hippies, they were like, bro, like, why you talk about this shit all the time? I was like, well, train. You'll see why.
Yeah. So let's kind of dive into some of the questions that we put out. They may not necessarily deal directly with jiu-jitsu, but we just happen to have a question from he's an active member of the Navy right now, but I'll let Janet's going to read some of the questions here. We'll just, what's that?
Nothing.
What?
I said sorry, just poking fun at the Navy. Oh, hold on. Real quick, though. Did you guys see that Coast Guard video?
Yes.
I will never talk shit about Coasties ever again.
Tell me what do you
tell me.
Bro, so there was a submarine with narcos in there, right? They had a whole bunch of cocaine. And this Coast Guard dude jumped off the little boat that he was on onto the submarine and was banging on it.
Yeah.
You know, he was speaking Spanish. I forgot what the hell he was saying, but he was like banging on it. Then they finally opened the hatch. And I mean, it's a fucking submarine in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, just going, right? It's like, you know, above the water. And he jumps on it. He's like, bang, 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 bang.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I would never talk shit about the Coast Guard ever again. They got my utmost respect.
Yeah.
You know. They're not as good as Marines,
that
but
was recent.
That's like last week, right? That was like. I know I saw somebody that I didn't finish watching. But
the Coasties are.
I guess I'm gonna have
to. I knew a Coastie who did joint operations with Navy SEALs. I mean, they were special operations Coast Guard, but they're pretty bad. I mean, they're pretty tough guys.
Yeah.
You know,
I heard their boot camp is almost.
Don't give them too much credit.
It's the second hardest
I know
boot
you
camp.
guys.
Come do some jiu-jitsu, Coasties.
Yeah. Go ahead, Janet, if you want to jump in.
So this is from Brooks Anderson. It says, hello, I've been listening to your podcast since the launch. I just wanted to thank you for having an entire show dedicated to jiu-jitsu. Thank you for watching, Brooks. I'm an active duty military, Navy, white belt, and have been training for about 4 months.
Nice.
Like a lot of people, I have absolutely fallen in love with jiu-jitsu.
There you go.
My question is, other than continuing to show up, what can I do to really elevate my game?
We're going to toss it to you first as the guest.
I mean, I was looking towards the black belt. You know?
I'm going to say
the black belt.
Go ahead, man.
Right. So my answer would be make it a lifestyle. Right. You have to immerse yourself into it. If you can train twice a day without getting hurt. You're active duty, so you might have to get up extra early. Right. Do some extra conditioning. Everything that you do off the mat is going to benefit you on the mat. So if you eat well, it's going to benefit you on the mat. If you mentally rehearse your techniques, I say this to everybody, get a journal, especially as a white belt. Start writing down your techniques because you're going to get immersed with techniques at the beginning. Your brain is over-flooded. And jiu-jitsu is a puzzle, right? You have all these techniques, and then you just got to slowly put them together. Right? And the quicker that you understand that you have to put those moves together, whether it's close guard, mount, side control, whatever the case might be, once you understand that, then your game starts getting better. That's when you start seeing the benefit of your hard work through promotions, through stripes, through new belts. That's what I would say.
You still take notes?
Yeah, I still have my journal.
How does it? I mean, like,
what I like about it.
Are you looking at it like every other day or every other week, or like is it like you look back on it every once in a while?
I look back on it and remember moves that maybe I've kind of forgotten because, like you said, you get saturated with so many different things and you think you like them. But then you forget about the one back here from last year and you go, oh yeah, I like that one. Let's go back to that because then it becomes sneaky for you.
So we also got to think, right, this is Jiu-Jitsu Dummies, so entry-level stuff, right? She's a 4-month white belt. Again, there's so much stuff, right? At each level, you need to understand that you're going to learn something different, right? Before you get your associate's degree in Jiu-Jitsu, that being your blue belt, you have all these little classes that you need to be able to understand, right? And don't be afraid. You're going to get submitted. That's going to happen, right? You're going to get choked. You're going to get arm barred. You're going to get arm locked. All these things are going to happen. Let them happen. Just learn from them, right? And don't let it be an obstacle. Let that obstacle allow you to learn, right?
I'm not sure about the Navy, and I'm not totally sure as far as terms, but like doing MCMAC is kind of something similar to this, or no? No, just kidding. I'm sorry.
McMap is like.
No, is that not anything?
No, because like.
Tell us what that is.
McMap is Marine Corps Martial Arts Program.
Okay.
It has nothing on jiu-jitsu, really.
Okay, but
you know what I mean?
I guess, yeah, but I mean, I know he's in the Navy versus being in the Marines, but I didn't know if you can kind of mix the two at all. No, not at all.
Well, no, I just think McMap is it's a self-defense system. It's not, like, jiu-jitsu is its own thing. especially the jiu-jitsu that we do, right?
So you can't transfer either.
No, you can learn. I would say McMap is a combination of many different arts, right? Incorporated into it that make it McMap. So you have judo, jiu-jitsu, kicking, striking, Muay Thai. You have all these different things that you learn, right? So there is a belt system within McMap, but I don't think you can say that, you know, a brown belt is equivalent to a jiu-jitsu brown belt. It might not necessarily. It might not necessarily.
No, but the belts are even different colors, though, right?
They're different colors, but they might not. I don't think they translate evenly.
No,
they don't.
Like you said, there's so much other different things that McMap encompasses. Where jiu-jitsu is like focused on a little bit of takedowns and the rest on the ground.
So reverse what I said and scratch that out.
No, it's all good.
Sorry.
No, she could train McMap. It's cool. I mean, the belts look cool in the uniform.
Well, I just didn't know if in the military, if you can take some of that stuff and incorporate that with your jiu-jitsu. If he's trying to elevate his game, can you take some of that combative type training? I know it's Navy, but still.
I think anything you could do on the side. Anything you could do on the side is always going to make you better, right? Yeah. Anything's going to make you better.
Yeah, and he got it right. Just show up. You know, just show up and be open.
I'm going to add, and I constantly preach this as somebody who did it myself, is you know, what are you doing off the mat? And not just going to the gym, but what are you doing for your mind? I was the YouTube guy at Kenny's gym.
I'm the YouTube guy.
I used to bring my iPad and like Kenny, can we we would drill and we'd go through the training, and then he knew that I was going to have something that I was going to ask about, and we would literally have my iPad off the side of the mat. He'd look at it and go, okay, let me show you how I would do that. But I consumed jiu-jitsu outside of class. You know, I slowly got away from like going to LA Fitness, but you know, I bought Kenny had the book Jiu-Jitsu University. He had that in the academy, and I wound up buying it years later. I'm like, oh, that looks fun. I'm going to buy that. I didn't understand what it was, but I mean, it's like a graphic representation of different moves along with, you know, kind of explanation of what to do. I think it's hands down. I mean, I shouldn't say hands down because it's the only book that I've bought like that. But it's incredible. I've stopped at Brown, and I kind of go back and forth and pick out little things that I want to go over. But feeding your mind outside of the actual gym and off the mat. You know, look at videos. I know that I used to like to, if we did a move in the gym, I'd go find that, especially if I wasn't getting it. I'd go find that, and eventually I would find a variation that worked for me, and I would try different things, and that's how I kind of supplemented. So, you know, for anybody, you know, feed your mind, read books.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's in your blood. I think it's in your blood when you tell a friend of yours that's non-jiu-jitsu player, hey, let me try this move on you real quick. You know it's in your blood then. It's like, what's wrong with me, right? Something's wrong. Something's taking over my body, right?
And I think when you love jiu-jitsu, I think like we all do here, like we just want more jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know? But, you know, there are times that I've been hurt, and that's, you know, where like the videos come into play.
For sure.
And, you know, found that movie Choke one time when I was hurt, right? And just like finding stuff and be like, oh my God, I didn't even know this was out there, learning the history, or just seeing, you know, moves and the evolution of moves. But I mean, that's one of the best pieces of advice I think that I can give anybody is, you know, feed your brain. Don't be scared to look at videos, even though not every coach loves like when you're that YouTube guy. But I mean, if you're doing it right, don't go just look up leg locks when you're a white belt. You know, go look up the things that you're doing on the mat that your coach is teaching you already, and look for the variations. Yeah. I always mention Jason Scully. He's got a YouTube channel. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah. I bought his program. $100 forever.
Grapplers. What is it called? Grapplers Guide. Grappler's Guide.
Very good resource.
I didn't buy.
I was going to ask you that.
I didn't buy the program. I just would, you know, watch the videos, and he's got like videos like 53 arm locks in 5 minutes, and he goes through the variations, and it's less about showing you the intricacies of each move, but just kind of showing you what's there when you're in that position. And I'd pick something. I'd always pick one or two out of that video and then go work on those in the gym.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be away from what the coach was teaching, but it would supplement what we were doing on the mat. Mm-hmm. And sometimes be like, I didn't know that was there. And how'd you, you know, and you know, that's a suggestion that I make to a lot of people.
Yeah,
again, just continue to feed your mind.
You know, we got to remember the class is it's an hour set class that the instructor has a lot to cover, right? So you got warm-ups, instructional, and then practice. And then you might get 15 minutes of sparring, maybe, right? And in those 15 minutes, you're trying to work those moves. So I've never known an instructor that has an hour-long class that closes doors once that hour's up. those doors will stay open. I think that's part of the brotherhood, that this resource is here, that you can go train, get your frustrations out, get out all your energy that you haven't been able to blow on anything else, and then stick around, whether to train some more, right? Talk, BS about whatever. Hey, my day sucked today, but I'm glad that I came. So
and you preach that. I know that you do it, because I know that you're one of the guys that usually sticks around for another couple of rolls at the end of the.
But you know why? I think because that's what I was indoctrinated with when I first started jiu-jitsu with Pablo. Man, we stayed there for another hour. Yeah, like those guys would train relentlessly. So it's like that's what I want to do. I want to do my class for an hour, and if I don't spar hard in those 15 minutes, I know there's another hour that that the mat's open. So
his question was basically, what could I do to supplement my jiu-jitsu training? And it's more jiu-jitsu.
Perfect.
Do some more jiu-jitsu. There you go, Brooks. Thank you for the question. Brooks is going to get a $50 coupon code for Children's Responsibly. So we'll get that out to him. But go ahead. Let's hear the next question.
Okay, so the next one is from Marcus Dago. 8-month white belt. When I fight out of a submission, it's more strength than technique. Is it better for me to tap rather than to fight the submission, especially since I tend to spaz out and use the strength?
That's definitely a white belt question. All due respect. It's a good question, Marcus, but it's definitely, if you wouldn't have said you were a white belt, we would have probably said he's got to be a white belt. Right? We would have said that.
So,
would you like to answer that?
So,
as our
resident
veteran white belt.
Yeah. So one of the things that made a huge transition for me, you go through these mental transitions when you train, and I had heard it a while ago, but it came true, and it got the spaz out of me, and it was take care of the concentrate on the small details, and the big things will take care of themselves. So I stopped getting put into a rear naked or someone trying to armbar me, and stop trying to just generally escape and remember what I was taught to counter those moves. And I just concentrated on the tiny little details, putting my elbow where it was supposed to be, my shoulder where it was supposed to be, keep my arms where they were supposed to be, just concentrating on that. And eventually all that came together to where it was an actual escape without the stress. So I would say that, especially as a white belt, the reason why white belts go through that spaz phase is because their mind is searching and escaping. And it's sort of what we talked about earlier during the podcast is there's that survival instinct that we have. And it's a little wild at first, but when you concentrate on the tiny little details that were taught to you and positioning your body and putting your hips where they're supposed to be, even in the midst of the chaos of someone about to choke you out, you concentrate on those little things, the big thing of escaping that submission or at least surviving without getting tapped will happen.
I could tell you, I remember being that guy, and it's ego. You haven't learned to leave your ego at the door yet.
Yeah.
You're still worried about, I can't give it up. I'm not going to let him get it. No. And that's when you get hurt or you spaz out and hurt somebody. But I think that's, we've talked about this on a few of the podcasts. I am still trying to remember to leave it at the door, to be a little bit more humble, to try to teach, to offer myself and whatever to the lower belts. Hey, let me help you with this. And do you mind, instead of just telling them what to do, hey, do you mind if I make a suggestion? Because not everybody's good at receiving the information either. Again, a little bit, it's usually a guy with an ego. No, I know it. I got my coaches over there, Well, let me kind of show you how I would do it. Maybe it'll help. But I remember being that guy. To me, it's ego. So Marcus, you got to really just leave the ego at the door and, remember that you're there to learn. You're not there to win, right? You're not there to win every match. It's not about that. You're there to learn. Now, if you were talking about a tournament, that's a whole different thing, right? Yeah. This is if you're training and this is the mentality, and it's not. We've all been there, Marcus. So it's not like I don't want to talk down to him, but he's got to get to that point, and sure. Jiu-Jitsu will get that out of you.
If it's tight and it's there, then tap. You're not losing anything. You're still learning.
Tap early, tap off.
And if you think it's something that you can at least try, because you should still always try and get out of something. But if it's loose, if it's not really there, then try. But if it's there, tap. Because like Professor Felipe says, longevity.
No, he probably says it like the first time.
Absolutely right. You're right. No, but that's the key here.
Yeah. It's a chain of events that happened before you got into that submission. So that's what you have to learn. What did I fail to do that got me to this bad place?
But it's still learning.
Right. Exactly. It's a learning process, right? It's a learning process. And it's to jiu-jitsu, what it does for me it puts me in those uncomfortable positions that I'm not normally in all the time throughout the day that I want to be in because I want to fight out of that, right? Like sitting on the couch, that's comfortable. That doesn't really challenge me. Driving my car, that's not really, well, we're in South Florida, right? So at times, yeah, it can be challenging, right?
Sport,
but there's a lot of times throughout your day that you're not really challenged. And jiu-jitsu is that challenge for you. Like, I'm going to put sometimes, hey, as a higher belt, I'll put myself in an uncomfortable position, right? Just to see what I can do because I'm not there. But as a newer belt, hey, what did you fail to do, right? Learn your techniques. And again, you can't just jump through the technique. You have to learn every step of the technique. So get better with the basics, right? And learn not to freak out, not to spaz out, leave your ego at the door.
And as the high, like, brown, black, white, blue, we have a very large pool of new white belts at Fight Sports in Coral Springs. We've just kind of got flooded with just a bunch of new guys. Some guys are have wrestling backgrounds, and it's just there are a lot of new white belts, adult men, and
some of those are vets, right?
Yeah. Shout out to Miguel. I know Miguel was in the Army, and he's someone that I could think of. Just rolling with him today, we had open mat this morning, and I have to remember catch and release. I don't have to wrench that Americana. I don't have to choke him. As a higher belt rolling with these new guys, sometimes I tell people, remember, hey, this is coach's business as well. So if we're choking out and hurting everybody that comes through the door, we're not helping. We're not helping them build. We're not helping them spread jiu-jitsu. We're not helping them build the business, and we're not building our family. Yeah. And I got to catch myself every once in a while. I go to, wait a minute, shit, this guy's a white belt. He's new, I have to remember to not be that guy that's wrench. And again, that's a little bit of a battle. You get that spazzy white belt, and you're like, man, I can choke this motherfucker right here, man. He just hit me in the face and scratch me across the head, and grab the back of my neck. And how come this guy isn't trimming his toenails?
Yeah.
That's your pet peeve, right? That's Junior's big pet peeve. But just came out of the bathroom with his bare feet, and it's but we have to, I'm always having to remember. Chris is making a face about the bathroom and the bare feet. We have to remember as people that have been training longer that we've got to guide them, and if we're wrenching that Americana, they're going to be doing that to that white belt that comes in behind them when they got 3 stripes. So I think I'm always challenged by that to just remember, but I'm getting a lot better at it. So
why do we comment about the spazzy white belts, right? Because it's important that we talk about that, right? Because you spaz out and you grab somebody's arm, or you grab their finger. That's probably the first thing that's going to happen. You grab a finger, you wrench it. Now you hurt this guy. Now you don't have a training partner anymore. That's one less person to train with. So you have to consider that. You can't be a spazzy white belt because you're going to hurt yourself, hurt somebody else, and they're a training partner that you need, right? Because it's a community.
Then we have again, especially at our gym, we have a great group of blue belts, right? That have all come up learning that way. That they're not, you coach, right? And we have a great group of people that with the exception of maybe 1 or 2. Who do leave their egos at the door and are anxious to train and to grab that white belt and say, hey, let me show you this. The other day there was he's like not even a 1-stripe white belt, but like the white belts teaching the white belts. But it was like
blind leading the blind over there.
But I had showed him something during that class. I said, hey, do it this way. And then he was showing another guy. And that's that's a good feeling.
For sure.
But we have a good group of blue belts who are, not just out there headhunting and,
That's good.
So we're in a good place.
Because we have some pretty decent white belts.
Yeah. Again, we've got a bunch of guys. There's one kid that's training jiu-jitsu with us, but he's doing stand-up someplace else. Like he wants to fight. There's another young man who's got a wrestling background. So that we got some tough guys too. So
we just got a really tough guy. He's Kiko Alonso that plays for the Dolphins. You guys know him? Big linebacker. Yeah. Well, we train with his brother.
Okay.
But they're both like.
Big dude.
Runs in the family.
Dude, yeah. And he's not a white belt. Like every time we take that guy to a tournament, he fucks up like blue belts and purple belts. And then the coaches are looking at us like, yo, like who is this guy? Like he's a sandbagger. And we're like, no, like he's really a white belt. Yeah. He has a little bit of a wrestling background. He played professional baseball, but he's a tank.
Yeah.
You know, shout out to Squat Doctor on Instagram, but that's him. But he's
There you
Squat
go.
doctor.
Squat
Doctor.
yeah, exactly. Big swole white belt.
Do you want to let's get into the next question here?
So we have Jordan, we say? Micoles? Sorry, friend.
Mick Coles?
I am an
Sorry if we
aspiring
fucked that up.
jiu-jitsu coach who also has a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
With limited time during the week, how can I transition to coaching full-time while staying financially stable?
You will never be able to be fine. No, I'm just kidding. That's a hard question. I don't know. Has anybody here ever made a living at coaching?
Well, I could just draw upon somebody else's experience. So, one of my friends, my brothers, is Jiu-Jitsu on YouTube.
Oh yeah, no,
Oh, yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu. I follow the group.
My homie.
Yeah.
Right. So Jiu-Jitsu, you know, he started off, and sorry if I booger it up, brother, but he started off working. I think he was working somewhere, and he just basically lived on the mats, right? So he was making an income, but then he was like living on the mats. And what he did is I think when he was like a brown belt or like transitioning to black, he started making videos on YouTube for his like white belts, like, hey, you know, just doing technique videos. And then what that turned into is him actually making a great living off of just the YouTube videos and the social media. So
Jiu-Jitsu logo, the shirt sales, the apparel, all that stuff came. I don't know him personally, but I do watch him.
I watch him all the time.
Amazing. He's an amazing teacher. One thing that he does too, as a coach, he's a great guy. When his brown belts are ready to transition to black, what he does is he has them host a seminar. And it's like, basically, give me your best 10 techniques and show them, you know, like do a seminar, and I want to see how you teach. You know, and it's a really great way to make that transition, because now you have to focus on, okay, how am I going to be as a teacher? Mm-hmm. You know, so I think that's a great thing that he does. And, you know, I've gone to his school a couple times, you know, I talk to him regularly. Great dude. And that's definitely a good thing. So that's an option for him, is to get into the social media side, where he's actually, you know, if he's an instructor, you know, share his technique on the video. You know, some people are really good in front of the camera. Just test out his skill. Is he good in front of the camera? And so that's one way. Other than that, I mean, if you guys have something.
I mean, I know it's not easy. I mean, I only know from from being close to coaches, you know, and having conversations. It's not easy. You know, people come and go. So Jordan didn't tell us what belt he was, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this is, you know, aspiring jiu-jitsu coach and he's a 4-stripe white belt, or he's somebody that is like, you know, we don't know.
Purple, brown, black.
Yeah, purple, brown, black. We don't know where he is. And I think the advice that I would give him would be, you know, at a white belt, I'd say, you know, get some more experience, build your social media following, right? Start putting out some of your favorite techniques, but probably wait till you're kind of at least a blue belt. Start out coaching, you know, offering to coach your, you know, kids at your school. If there is a kids program, that's probably the best way. Because adults are a little bit, well, kids are hard to deal with, but adults don't necessarily want to take the information from somebody that they feel is, you know, you're only a blue belt. But kids are going to look up to you. Right? I think they just look at, you know, they see the blue belt and an adult. The training is going to be a little bit different. And they receive the information differently. But again, you know, it's get the experience, be online, build your social media following, put out videos like you said.
Find a niche.
And you know, give it some time. You know, not everybody's going to be as lucky as Chewy. Is it Chewy?
Yeah, Chewy.
Chewy in Jiu-Jitsu.
Because he looks like Chewbacca.
Yeah,
like,
well, yeah, beard, right?
Beard.
The logo's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
My dog's name is Chewy, by the
Nice.
way. So, but yeah, I mean, listen, it's not just easy to go, you know, from, you know, full-time job to just coaching.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
There's not a lot of money.
But like if he finds a niche, like let's say you do jiu-jitsu videos for anti-bullying, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like find a niche like that people are looking for.
So it's not just you like say don't just make money on jiu-jitsu on the mat coaching. You've got to find other sources of income that
so I'm saying like if he does like the social media stuff, like just find a niche within it. Like like there's a bunch of people doing like technique videos, but if you have a successful kids program and you know like, okay, these are the things that run a successful kids program, because if you own your own school, you have a kids program, that's going to be the driving thing, because parents will pay anything for their children.
Yeah.
Right. So if you know how to make a successful kids program and you can share that, then
you know, shout out to Felipe again, our coach. He's got an amazing kids program. I see the videos every day. You know, he does the camp. Why am I talking about it? Are you coaching, or are you helping out with the
Not with summer
program?
camp.
Oh, no, summer camp. I mean, I see the pictures online. I see the videos. You know, he's got an amazing camp. He doubled the size of his facility a couple of years ago, so he's got a ton of space, and they're doing obstacle courses, and you know, he's got a movie screen on the wall in the inside of the new cafe, like games and shuffleboard, like the hockey, like the air hockey. Like he's really done a really good job, and everybody does jiu-jitsu. So he talks about it a lot. He builds the business on the back of the kids program, so it's an important part. So anybody have anything to add? Good. Hey, that's been we're right around an hour and 20, so we're going to wrap it up.
Cool.
We're going to invite Drew back to come back on and talk about kids and underserved communities and bring jiu-jitsu to those kids. So first, I want to thank everybody for listening. Everybody who tuned in, thank you again. We love you all. If we didn't answer your question, I get we get a lot of questions. Sometimes we put out a subject and we say, hey, send us your questions, and sometimes the podcast is just about those questions that they might send us. So if we haven't answered your questions, submit them again. Email us at info@jiu-jitsudummies.com, or just post on our social media. I usually put out a post about a week before we're going to record, at least a couple of days before we're going to record, and I'm asking for questions. So we want you guys involved. Continue to send them to us. If we did answer your question, I mentioned this before, we're going to give you a $50 coupon code that you can use on chokeresponsibly.com. It's specific to the podcast swag section. There's a podcast menu tab, so you'll go in there, and there are bags and stickers and lots of new stuff. Even we added a hoodie last week as well. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies. All right, and please help us out on YouTube. We've got a tremendous following. We've got Junior competing with Coach Philippe. He's winning right now. He's got about double the views.
Now I'm competing with Junior.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, let's see what we can do. But make sure if you watch the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing on YouTube is free. So the more subscribers we have, the more things that we can do. They actually kind of let you do more things within your page, including advertising and running like patron programs on YouTube as well. Not sure how many people know about that, but we've got to get to 1,000 subscribers. With 4,000 hours of watch videos, so we're getting
Subscribe.
there. Yeah, so we're I think we're scraping right at I think like about 160 subscribers since we started. This is only our 5th podcast. That is just, by the way, that blows away most of the other podcasts that started around the same time, even podcasts that have been around for about 2 years. So let's go around the table. Everybody, just give your Instagram handles real quick. Janet.
Janet _ I don't even know what JJ Dummies. Sorry.
We got to get you posted some pictures on there, Janet. I sent you a whole bunch of podcast pictures the other day.
Friends, sorry.
Raul?
At Raul Benton.
Okay. At J Vega Jr. on Instagram.
At Drew _ Phoenix.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, SubStar shout out any of your sponsors, SubStars, do it all.
I need some sponsors,
Yeah, go ahead, man. But this is your time, man.
Shout out SubStars, sub.stars. We got an event going on July 19th. It's going to be great. We got Marvin Castile, the Cerebus fighting Joao Miao, and a lot of great local talent, that's going to be fighting too. It's going to be an amazing event.
We will be there. The dummies will be there. Come take a picture with us.
Yeah, sub.stars, and then follow my personal page, Drew _ Phoenix. And yeah, that's what I got.
That's good. All right. So again, chokeresponsibly.com, 10% off with coupon code DummiesPod5. Fight Back CBD. We want to thank them again. 2 of the guys that submitted questions today will get a bottle of Fight Back CBD. We'll put you in contact with them. Everyone else, you can order. Go to fightbackcbd.com and use code JJD. All right, that one's pretty simple. Again, thank you to our show patrons, CJ, Chuck, James. Thank you again. We love you guys. Mission 22, mission22.com. All right. Again, patrons, if you want us to shout out your gym, something like Mission 22, I'm more than happy to do it for as little as $5 a month. Go on our website, jiu-jitsudummies.com. Go to the patron/sponsor section, and you can just check out right there and give us a couple bucks to keep us on air. All right. Sponsors, if you want to sponsor in a big way, you want to send us some gis, some massage guns, whatever. let us know. Some T-shirts. That a-hole from Joke Responsibly, we'll get rid of him. And we'll bring on an apparel sponsor. A sponsor would be great. Just give us a shout through the website. Go to the contact page, fill out the form, and we will get back to you. So thank you, Drew.
Awesome
thank you
job,
very much, man. You were a pleasure to have on the show, man.
Hey,
And,
if you're a vet, if you're a vet in the South Florida area and are looking to do some jiu-jitsu, contact Drew, contact myself. You can hit us on social media, right? Raul as well, and we'll see about getting you guys training.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Bo, behind the camera.
Great job.
Chris, the girl that drove you here who's asleep in the corner. I forget her name. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Check us out. This is episode 5. We're going to be back with episode 6 with Drew right after this. A couple weeks we'll launch. Take care, guys. Oos.
Oos.
Bye. All right, guys. Awesome, man.